Alright, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Earthquake Chainsaw Setup presentation video. We're going to go through the unpackaging and setting up of your new Earthquake chainsaw. This will apply to all of the Earthquake models of chainsaw. So we're going to begin by opening the box. The owner's manual is right on top, and the first part of the carton to remove has all of the accessories for the chainsaw, except the bar covers. We have the bar and chain, or the bar, excuse me. We have the chain, scrunch, screwdriver wrench, a file, and an accessory bottle of oil to get you started. Okay, next we're going to remove the chainsaw from the box. Of course, it comes wrapped in plastic, and we also have a bar cover that's usually located in the lower part of the box with the chainsaw. We always recommend, before you begin assembly, please review the owner's manual. It'll give you some ins and outs and help you to understand how to operate this product safely. First, install the bar and chain on this saw. We're going to do that by removing the bar cover. Using the screwdriver wrench, loosen the two bar nuts. All Earthquake chainsaws are equipped with a handle style chain brake safety mechanism. Sometimes when you receive the new saw, the chain brake will be locked. To remove it from the saw, you'll have to pull it back and lock it back into place, into the open position. So go ahead and pull that back and you should be able to remove this cover easily. Just under the cover, there's a yellow protective plate. This plate has to be removed and discarded. Next, we're going to start with unpacking the chain. As you'll notice, saw chain usually comes all tangled up in the package. So what we want to begin to do is very carefully unloop this saw chain and straighten it out. Whenever a saw chain is looped, it always loops twice, so it's just a matter of untangling and straightening the loops. Be very careful when handling the saw chain. It is a sharp tool, and it will cut you if you're not careful with handling of the saw chain. The next thing we're going to do is install the bar and the chain on the saw. What I like to do is place the bar on the chainsaw and hook it into the engagement mechanism. Now, this one happens to be adjusted forward, so we're going to have to move the bar adjustment, which is located right here in the front of the chainsaw, and it interlocks this little tab here, and that's what moves the bar in and out and adjusts the tension on the chain. So to install this, we're going to have to back this up a little bit. So using the screwdriver wrench, we can back this up. Now, the reason that I am going to set the bar and chain up this way, if you set the saw on its side and try to install the bar and chain like this, it's very difficult to get the bar to properly interlock this tab. And what happens in a lot of cases is when you put the chain on in the bar cover, you end up tightening the cover down and bending this lock tab. To avoid that, the easiest way is to install it with the chainsaw up like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back past where the adjustment is and just move the saw back. Now, the saw chain only has one cutting edge. It's the very top part of the tooth. That should be pointed out forward along the top rail of the bar. So, if you install the chain backwards, it absolutely will not cut. Okay, with the sharp edge of the chain pointed forward on the bar, we're going to put it over the clutch and feed it into the bar groove. And at this point, the chain should be hanging. Now we're going to begin to move it out and try and interlock that adjustment. Now as you can see, I haven't moved the adjuster back far enough, so I'm just going to take my screwdriver wrench and I'm going to adjust this back farther so that it interlocks the bar correctly. Very important to interlock that tab correctly as to not damage it when installing the cover. We've got the bar adjuster interlocked into the bar. We have it pushed against the saw. You'll notice that the chain is still looped. That's okay for right now. First we're going to install this bar cover. So slide it onto the studs and push it on all the way. Then take the bar nuts and put them on the saw as to hold this cover on snug but not tight. We just want everything to be touching each other so that we can adjust the bar out to its proper tension. Now I have the bar stud nuts installed. They're loose, but now it won't allow the bar to come out of the adjustment tab. We're going to take the screwdriver wrench and we're going to begin moving the bar adjustment out. So I'm now turning the bar adjustment screw clockwise to pull the chain into the bar and put the proper tension on the chain. Whenever I move the chain using my hands, I always move it away from the sharp side of the blade. So now that I'm getting closer in the adjustment, I want to just rotate it a little bit to make sure that it's fitting into the groove correctly. Now I'll continue and finish out the adjustment. What we want to do is snug this chain down so that it doesn't come, when you lift the chain, it doesn't come completely out of the bar. But it should come up out of the groove slightly. If you tighten it down so you can't lift it out of the bar groove, it's going to be too tight and the saw is going to have a difficult time turning it. So we want it about like that. When you pinch the chain and lift it, it should come just to the top of the bar groove, but not come all the way out. Now we can, after some use, the chain will stretch a little bit and it will require readjusting, usually within about the first 30 minutes of use. So keep that in mind as you begin and start operating your saw, that this will stretch a little bit and it may require a readjusting. Now that we have the tension set correctly, we're going to tighten the bar nuts. To do this properly, tip the saw forward and put forward pressure on the end of the bar. Then go ahead and snug up the nuts. Again, they need to be good and tight. Do not over tighten them. It isn't necessary to crank them down so severely that you strip the bar or anything like that. By applying tension or pressure down on the front of the bar, as we tighten it, as we saw, that's going to tend to keep the natural tension on the chain. If you just allow it to hang loose, as you begin to cut, the bar will move up slightly and the chain will become loose immediately. So it's a good idea to tip the bar forward, put a little tension on it, and then tighten the nuts. Okay, now we're going to fill the chainsaw with mixed gas and bar and chain oil. To do this, we're going to set the saw on its side, remove the gas tank cover, take our pre-mix gas, shake it up a little bit. I like to shake any standing gas just to make sure that it's properly mixed. And then we're going to pour it into the fuel tank. Now, whenever I fill a chainsaw, I try to be a little bit careful. I don't fill them all the way to the top because I don't want to spill fuel and bar oil all over the place. So I usually leave it down from the, the fullest part by a little bit, just because I don't like to make a mess. So once we fill the fuel, we can reinstall the fuel cap and go to the bar oil, which is right back here. On some of our models, the bar oil is up in the front, but on the CS41, it happens to be right next to the fuel tank. Again, we're going to take our bar and chain oil. We always recommend bar and chain oil because it includes extra lubricants that are designed for a rolling chain. It tends to be a little bit stickier than a standard motor oil, so we always recommend that you use an approved bar and chain oil. And I'm going to be a little bit careful about this because I don't want to make a mess. Again, we're going to fill it not quite to the top. Now we'll go through the proper starting procedure. We're going to start by turning on the switch and priming the primer bulb. Simply pump this primer bulb 3 or 4 times until you have fuel. The carburetor is primed and set. The last thing we need to do is to pull the choke interlock out and lock it securely. This closes the choke and it also sets the idle up to a high idle for starting. If we over choke it and cause a flooding condition where too much gas has entered the saw and it doesn't want to start, by simply pushing this forward and pulling the rope several times, the saw should clear out and start without any problem. Once the saw starts, pull the trigger, it comes off of high idle, and allow the saw to warm up for 3 to 5 minutes before you go to work with it. It isn't absolutely necessary, but it's always a good idea to allow the engine to warm up before you go to work. The final step before you begin to saw is to simply pull the handbrake back and release it. Now the chain will operate and you're ready to go to work. So we're going to go outside and we're going to fire this saw up. We're going to start again, like I explained, by turning the switch on, interlocking the throttle, priming the primer bulb. Lock the safety brake forward, place your toe right in the end of the handle, and hold with a firm grip on top of the saw to stabilize it and make sure that it doesn't go anywhere. Pull it until it fires once. Push the choke lever forward. One final note, the saw comes with a scabbard to protect the bar and chain. Anytime you transport or store the saw, be sure to install a scabbard over the bar and chain. That protects your chain, keeps you from dipping it in the dirt or bumping it against the concrete floor, and it helps to save on the sharpness of the chain. Again, before we go to work with your new chainsaw, let me remind you, please read the owner's manual and pay attention to all the warnings that are stated in the owner's manual.